We'll take you to Cape Town next. And if you're a beachgoer there, you might get the grills, as we say in South Africa. I certainly do. For those of you who frequent the False Bay coastline, you are being cautioned to be vigilant of poisonous pufferfish and sea snakes. They have reportedly been washing ashore in recent weeks. And our Latasha Naidu joins us now from Hout Bay with the latest on that story. Latasha, I couldn't think of a worse thing than being as a sea lover as I am, or an ocean lover as I am, swimming in the bay or whatever, and then suddenly you're encountered with these two species, both of whom I understand are highly venomous. Tell us what we've been able to find out about their prevalence now in the ocean and washing up on shore.
Good morning, Emmanuel. I certainly have the thrills during this story this morning. As you can see, I'm on Hout Bay Beach, and this morning I've seen a number of people going on their daily beach walks and walking their dogs, and most of the people I've spoken to have been blissfully unaware of the potential risks of these pufferfish, in particular the evil eye pufferfish species that over the past few weeks have been washing up ashore along the False Bay coastline, and that's of course in Fischhoek, Hout Bay, and also Muizenberg beaches. Now, I'm told by authorities that this is not a new phenomenon, that high winds over the past few weeks in particular have caused these pufferfish to wash ashore along these coastlines. And it's a yearly occurrence, but people aren't aware of the dangers. Dead or alive, these evil eye pufferfish are extremely poisonous. They contain a poison called tetrodotoxin, which I'm told is 1,200 times more poisonous than cyanide. So the beachgoers and community members are advised not to touch these fish, dead or alive, if they come across them. Now, there's also been reports of yellow-bellied sea snakes, which are extremely venomous, having washed up along these coastlines as well. And the authorities, I must say, have been quite proactive in terms of getting rid of these carcasses as they wash up, particularly with regard to the pufferfish. I've already seen this morning that coastal management and solid waste management teams have been on cleanup efforts along this beach in particular. But the advice to beachgoers is to stay clear, if they can, from these pufferfish species, as well as these yellow-bellied sea snakes, which are washing up ashore, to ensure that if your dogs, for example, have consumed these species, to get them to a vet immediately, as they are highly venomous and poisonous and can cause death, Iman.
Sure. And the other concern, of course, you think for people like me who have a, phobia of snakes and things like that, that's the one aspect. There's the health risk, as you say, highly, highly venomous. And so the potential for death and the risk for death is there. And you must just share with us whether there have been warnings issued. We know that people like to surf, and there's a great deal of sort of water sports and action along the coastline as well, whether there have been any warnings. But the other's got to be the concern for these species as well. And I think in the last incident about under a year or so ago along the Knysna-Plettenberg Bay coast, there were attempts to rescue some of these species, take them to the local aquariums, nurse them back to health, and then release them back into the wild. So talk to us about the efforts to protect these species as well.
Of course. Well, the majority of the pufferfish that have been washing ashore have been dead, unfortunately. And environmental organizations and researchers have spoken to the red tide phenomena, which may have contributed to the deaths of these species. And of course, over the past few years, we've seen hundreds of these carcasses washing up ashore. And the city's environmental management departments have been reacting or responding quite proactively to that. But there have been warnings being issued by the City of Cape Town, particularly warnings on Facebook and on X with regard to surfing communities, with regard to community pages, particularly communities along the False Bay coastline, notifying people of the potential dangers, telling them not to handle these species. But also, like you mentioned, over the past few years, there's been attempts to rehabilitate these species, particularly those yellow-bellied sea snakes. I know a few years ago that a few of these species that washed up ashore were taken into the Two Oceans Aquarium and rehabilitated before being released back into the wild. But I've been told that with the sea snakes that have been washing up ashore recently, all have unfortunately been dead. So this is a phenomenon that is being investigated in mine. We've been told about the red tide particularly affecting these species, as well as climate change. We know in recent years climate change has had a specific effect on the great white population within the Western Cape waters. So it's going to be interesting to find out from authorities when I speak to them later today if this similar phenomenon with climate change is also affecting the migration of these fish and sea snake populations, and if they are contributing to their deaths as well.
Natasha Naidu, thank you very much. One has also got to feel so sorry for these species. They're victims in all of this, as you just shared with us.